So after the line study, we're going to work on these two. This is going to be a flat wash, and this is going to be a graded wash, which means it's going to show a gradual change from light to dark. But the first one would be like, let's say you were painting the side of a building or the side of a car, and you wanted it to be one even tone of color. So the first thing you do is you could take a sponge, but just do it light, and you want to wet the whole area. So before the water gets too dirty, I'm going to go ahead and wet both of these. So it doesn't hurt, you just wet them, carry it over to the tape, and then get rid of the big brush. And then I'm going to stick with the lavender, I don't know why. But for this one, it's going to be I hope it works, it's going to be a flat tone of color. So what I'm going to do is I want to mix enough, because if you just had a little bit and you put it on there, so I'm going to keep adding this to this and more water. I want my color to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to go with this. So it's wet. I've wet my brush, and I'm going to go. Now you cannot tarry. You just have to do it. Once you pick that color and you've committed to that, go. Let it run on top of the tape. Don't worry about it. You don't want to see all these different colors in there, so you don't have but a second to get it straight, and then leave it alone. That looks pretty much one tone of color, so I'm leaving it alone. Dropping the brush. Okay, so that's one tone of color, and while you're looking at that, here's where she did her one tone of color was darker than mine. Some tape got stuck there. Here's this person's one tone of color, very similar to mine. I don't know where this color came from, but it's nice. This is one flat tone of color, and it was all done like I did mine. Now what we're going to try to do is I'm going to show you how to do graded from dark to light. It's a little harder, so you need to watch dark to light. If you make a mistake, just dark to light. Try it on just a plain sheet. This is actually excellent right here, dark to light. So, don't know that mine's going to be excellent, but I already wetted it. It's already wet. Wetted it? Don't think that's a word. So I'm going to go with a really dark purple on the end. Scoot up so you can see it. You can't tarry long. You got to work pretty fast. If I carried this, it would just, you have to wipe it off, wipe your brush off, or it's not going to get any lighter. So I carried it this way, hitting the water, hitting the towel. I don't like that I can see that line. And then I'm just going to take off the end. Now I'm going to go back. Yeah, it's definitely going dark to light. I'm probably going to mess up, but I'm going to lift some of that off a little bit or carry it out a little further. Don't want to be a straight line. I'm wiping it off. As you can see, I'm talking about wiping it off, but you can't see. I'm like hitting it over here so that it doesn't hold that paint and then make the end dark. Hit that off. I think I'm lifting. I don't really want to lift. Not sure I like that. Okay, so it's harder than it looks. I'm liking it better. I'm barely touching the paper. This might be a sunset. You might use a gradual dark to light. You would always have, this is what the watercolor artists call wet on wet. My brush was wet, the paper was wet. Both of these are wet on wet techniques. I tell my kids it sounds kind of like a diaper commercial. I'll put a little water in there. My brush was wet. A lot of times you'll hear dry on wet. That means dry brush on wet paper, but this was wet, obviously wet on wet paper. Looks kind of messy because of the tape, but I think we take that out. I think that's going to be pretty good. This is kind of got some variations in it up there. I wanted it to work fast so that it would be one flat color. Not sure, it looks a little lighter in here, but I would know that I tried that. And this is dark to light. So that's those two. I'm going to cut that off.